The BxR-55 Battler is a legendary solar pulse rifle first released with the 30th anniversary update during the Season of the Lost. Like everything else during the update, it is a celebration of Bungie's past and present, and this pulse rifle mimics the form and feel of the iconic BR-55 service rifle from the Halo franchise. It is one of the many weapons that drop from the Dares of Eternity, a game show style activity where Guardians fight notable opponents of different factions from the original Destiny game. With the release of the Season of Plunder, the BxR-55 Battler was made into a craftable weapon with new and capable perks. Alongside buffs to the lightweight archetype as well as itself, it is now one of the best pulse rifles in the game for just about every activity. This video will cover its stats and perk pool, weapon behavior, obtainability, recommended rolls, and overall performance both PvE and PvP activities. Hopefully, by the end of this, you'll have just a little more information to work with when making your next build. Let's break this down. At base, the BxR-55 Battler has 50 range, 59 stability, 71 handling, 63 reload speed, 35 magazine size, though 36 in-game, 85 aim assistance, 10 airborne effectiveness, 20 zoom, and 70 recoil direction. It is a 450 rounds per minute legacy PR-55 frame with a base damage falloff of 41.28 meters. In PvP, it deals 26.4 crit and 16 body, needing 7 crit 1 body to kill all resilience tiers with a time to kill of 0.87 seconds. In PvE, it deals 1342 crit and 810 body against Carl. Compared to the average legendary energy 450 lightweight pulse rifle, the BxR-55 Battler has higher stats almost across the board. Interestingly, despite dealing the exact same damage in both PvP and PvE, it has an impact stat of 23 instead of the 27 that other 450 lightweight pulse rifles have. Outside of that, the stat package is fantastic. It is above average in every stat except airborne effectiveness, with major increases in range, aim assistance, and recoil direction. These stats contribute to the great feel of the BxR-55 Battler in just about any situation, and I'll talk about that in depth later. In terms of perks, the intrinsic perk is Legacy PR-55 Frame. It states, customized frame with dramatically increased accuracy, stability, and targeting while hip firing. This is a unique intrinsic perk to this pulse rifle, and while it shares the same damage profile as 450 lightweight frames, it does not share the boost to sprint speed. This perk makes the hipfire of this weapon very reliable and stable. It is not as precise as Deadman's Tale, but it's consistent enough for close range and pretty comfortable to use. Alongside this is the origin trait, Hot Swap. It states, switching to this weapon while you are damaged strongly increases its handling for a short duration. Swords gain increased charge speed, guard resistance, and guard endurance instead. This is a pretty handy perk. It helps ensure you have the right weapon in hand when you need it most, though it's not very noticeable on this weapon as the handling stat is already quite high. For regular perks, Column 1 has the usual barrel perks available, nothing special. In Column 2, there's a small but decent selection of magazine perks. Great stat boosters like ricochet rounds and flared magwell are present, as well as other nice options like steady rounds and accurized rounds. The last two columns have some versatile options for various activities. In Column 3, there are Outlaw, Killing Wind, Perpetual Motion, Demolitionist, Pugilist, and Heating Up. Column 4 has Blunt Execution rounds, Eye of the Storm, Kill Clip, Elemental Capacitor, Gutshot Straight, and Incandescent. There are a lot of great combinations here for pretty much every activity, with the only thing missing being a non-kill damage perk like Frenzy or One for All for high-level activities like Master Raids. Still, many great pairings to go for. All weapon footage and testing have been done on mouse and keyboard with a field of view setting of 105. The BxR-55 Battler is a pretty unique pulse rifle with a pretty unique feel. To me, it's a very light weapon with fantastic consistency, and a lot of different factors influence this. The sound is very crisp and low in bass, the handling is very fast, and it shoots very gently. On the note of how it shoots, it's very unique in both the hipfire and the sights. The hipfire is the obvious difference between the BxR-55 Battler and other pulse rifles. It's stable and fairly consistent, and very low on bloom. As mentioned before, it's not as precise as Deadman's Tale, but it's good nonetheless. The biggest difficulty for any hipfire weapon is landing consistent crits, and I don't think this is the case for this weapon. Within 15 meters or so, hipfire crits are fairly easy, and perfect 3-burst kills in PvP are achievable, even more so with the use of freehand grip. As for the sights, they are also very unique. As weapons derived from the Halo franchise, both it and the Forerunner exotic sidearm ADS by hiding the weapon model and zooming in with the reticle. This gives a great amount of visibility for your entire field of view, and has the unique effect of making the zoom of the weapon feel less than it actually is. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the Jade Rabbit and the BxR-55 Battler. Both of these weapons have a zoom stat of 20, yet despite having the exact same magnification, the zoom of the BxR-55 Battler feels weaker. The reticle also feels somewhat bouncy, especially in PvP. I suspect this is because the reticle is the only part of the weapon that is visible while ADSing, which makes its movement more noticeable. Still, the bounce does not negatively impact the accuracy much. This weapon is extremely forgiving when it comes to crits. Bullet magnetism is already really noticeable on pulse rifles, but the BxR-55 Battler especially feels like it's bending your bullets. Overall, it's a light and very smooth shooting pulse rifle that's comfortable in a wide band of engagement ranges. I feel Bungie did great tuning this weapon. The BxR-55 Battler is fairly simple to obtain. After completing a run of Dares of Eternity, it can drop both from the end chest as well as using a treasure key at Xur's treasure hoard. This has both positives and negatives. The positive is that this is a fairly simple and easy process. Dares of Eternity is pretty easy in both normal and legend difficulties, and the loot comes in a steady stream. You will likely get a few copies of this weapon after a session of grinding, and the perk pool isn't massive. The negative comes with trying to obtain the weapon pattern for crafting. Now, there is currently a bug where if you have a character that has never completed the Dares of Eternity quest, you can use that character and abandon the quest on step 2, then redeem treasure keys obtained using another character. This will drop the BxR-55 Battler with every key, making it much easier to obtain the 5 deep sight drops required for the pattern. Without this bug, however, the grind is very time-consuming. It's not difficult or complicated, just time-consuming. You're at the mercy of RNG, and it took me about 50 keys to obtain the weapon pattern, though it did also give me good progress on other weapon patterns also. Nonetheless, a weapon pattern means a perfect roll is guaranteed at some point. If you are a perfectionist, you'll get your perfect roll. If you simply want one with good perks to have, you won't have to sweat to get one, so there's something for everyone. As for any weapon in Destiny 2, every perk has its own use case, so use the rolls that work with yours. I will be pointing out the rolls I feel are strong in my use cases, but these are merely recommendations. PvE-wise, the BxR-55 Battler is very good at ad clear and ability recharge, but not as good at dealing with high health enemies like champions. For column 1, the options to go for are Arrowhead Break or Full Bore. I feel Arrowhead Break is the best barrel option for this weapon as it brings the recoil direction to 100, but Full Bore can be good if you don't care about anything and just want extra range. For column 2, the best options are Flared Magwell or Light Mag. These are the best options for reload speed, and that is always welcome. The last two columns do not have that many options, but the perks that are there are pretty great. For column 3, the best options are the ability recharge perks, Demolitionist and Pugilist. These are usually 4th column perks, but here they are on the 3rd. Pick the one for the ability you like. For column 4, the draw here is Incandescent. Ever since it was introduced, it has been a top tier ad clear perk, even more so on solar subclasses. Any kills with Scorch or Ignition from this perk will also trigger the ability recharge on Demolitionist or Pugilist, which makes for a great pairing. As for the masterwork, go for reload speed. Simple enough. The ad clearing strength of the BxR-55 Battler is pretty great. With Incandescent, every kill in a group softens enemies in that group, making the next kill easier, and that eventually builds up to solar ignitions. And all of this comes with ability energy for your grenade or melee. The only issue is the lack of perks like One for All or Frenzy for dealing with champions or high health ads. The best perks in both columns are kill perks, and the performance of kill perks varies a lot depending on the activity. Still, the perk pairings are good at their job, so I feel it's worth my energy slot. All weapon performance testing has been done with one copy of the appropriate targeting, dexterity, loader, and unflinching mods, and without weapon boosting exotics or class options, such as Ophidian aspects or on your mark. PvP is where the uniqueness of the BxR-55 Battler shines. Most of its perks are PvP focused, and there's a decent variety of these perks also. For column 1, my recommendations are Arrowhead Break and Small Bore. Arrowhead Break gives that perfect 100 recoil direction alongside an appreciated handling boost, while Small Bore gives nice stats if recoil direction isn't a concern. For column 2, the best options are Ricochet rounds or Steady rounds. Ricochet rounds is a very good stat booster for just about every weapon it's available on, while Steady rounds is there for increased airborne effectiveness, which can be nice if you want to build into that. The last two columns have some great stat boosting perks with both neutral and kill chaining uses. For column 3, go for Killing Wind, Perpetual Motion, or Heating Up. All of these are stat boosting perks that help with consistency. Perpetual Motion for the neutral game, Killing Wind for aggression, and Heating Up if you want to eliminate as much recoil as possible, though I personally don't notice much of a difference with this perk. For column 4, almost every option except Gutshot Straight has a use case. Blunt Execution rounds has a niche with melee-focused playstyles. With a melee and a burst to the body, you can take down a Guardian at tier 8 resilience or below. This can happen pretty quickly, and it's also easier than you think as your first melee would have made you face your target. There is one caveat though. If you do it too fast, there are times where the shots or the damage boost won't register, and that may lose you the fight. Eye of the Storm is a very good dueling perk that helps you keep your shots on target as you're taking damage. This can come in clutch in close fights against opponents with good aim. Kill Clip is a very strong option for kill chaining. The 33% damage increase brings the crit damage to 35.1, enough to 2-burst any resilience tier with 6 crits. This is one of the strongest perks available to any pulse rifle, and the inclusion on this one is very welcome, even if I personally prefer Eye of the Storm. Elemental Capacitor is a strange option here. With the strong base stats of the BxR-55 Battler, it allows you to bring pretty much any stat you want to a full 100. But those base stats are so high that with some builds and rolls, you risk going over 100 on a stat and losing value. Still, it's a strong neutral perk, consider it depending on your build. Incandescent isn't very practical in PvP at all times, but it's not useless either. This is a pulse rifle with fairly high zoom, making it good at holding lanes. There are times when you can scorch groups of enemies, and depending on your playstyle that could be very satisfying, so the option is there. The PvP performance of the BxR-55 Battler is phenomenal. The consistency and comfort of this weapon are unparalleled. In any situation, at any engagement range between 5 and 45 meters, it is smooth to shoot and reliable. There's nothing tricky about this weapon like there is for some exotic or min-maxed legendary weapons. You just point at your target and fire, and nothing gets in the way. Range and handling are high, while recoil and flinch are minimal. There is never a moment where I felt frustrated at flinch or hit registration with the BxR-55 Battler. It just works, and it works really well. It's not perfect, to be fair. It doesn't have the fastest pulse rifle TTK, it doesn't have the highest pulse rifle range, and all it really does is shoot bullets well. But it's so good at everything that you can trust it to work whenever you need it to, and that makes it incredibly special. The BxR-55 Battler is, in every sense, the embodiment of that beloved Destiny tagline, "Gun Feel Good." The BxR-55 Battler is a delightful tribute to the gunplay of Bungie's shooters, both past and present. It has been brought to Destiny 2 in an almost perfect way, with fantastic perks for both PvE and PvP alongside a very satisfying feel. It's a versatile weapon that's good at many things while not having any glaring flaws. You point it at what you want to shoot and it does exactly that. No problems with hit registration or recoil whatsoever. Most importantly of all, it's fun. It's fun to use, and it's fun to see a reference to a classic FPS franchise in Destiny 2, and for that I feel it's truly a gem of a weapon. If you've enjoyed this video, a like would be appreciated, and subscribe if you want more. Feel free to comment below with your own experiences, any other weapons you'd like to see, or any changes you want to suggest for the videos in general. Thank you, and take care.